using range. All right, so here we are going to say for, and then you will basically give it a placeholder. So we'll say I in range, and then you would give it a range of, let's say we want to collect some data and we want to collect 5 items. So we're going to say this is a loop to collect user info. So the first thing we want to do is do name equals, for example, input, what is your name? So that will collect our name and it's going to store it in name. Then we want to say age. We'll do input equals, we'll do int input what, oops, forgot my quotes, what is your age? We could say here job. We could say input, are you a student or worker? All right, then this is where things get cool. So in a for loop, you can ask different things or do different things. So we know that we have an if statement, right? So what we could do here is add an if statement in the for loop. So we could say if job is equal to student. And remember, we had that case of the operators where we could use and or. So in this case, we'll use or. Job is equal to student. All right, I'll stop here to help debunk. All right, so what's going on right now is that we talked about those logical operators and or. And remember, I said that you can use this to check if one condition is true or another condition is true. So in this case, we are asking our user to enter in if they are a student or a worker. The only issue is if you want to use options, you don't know how your user is going to enter in if they are a student or a worker. For example, they may enter it as student with a lowercase s, or they may enter it as student with the uppercase s. And in that case, you want to basically do whatever line of code you're asking, regardless of how the user entered it. And this will help cover that. So if we go ahead and click enter into our if statement, then we could say, for example, grade level equals, and we'll do input, what grade are you? Right? So that's basically saying if the person said they are a student, we're going to ask them, what grade are you? And we'll get that information. Our other case would be if they are a worker, because we ask, are you a student? Are you a worker? So that will be a elif statement. And this is how your topics are combining together. So you would say elif job is equal to, and remember, we don't know how our user is going to type in their answer, so we're going to check both cases. Or job is equal to worker with a capital W. Then we're going to say career, for example. We don't want to use job because we already use job as a placeholder, so that's why I'm using career here, equals input what is your current job? All right. And then it will collect that data. So now we have two cases. But remember, if your user types in any answers other than the 4 that we gave it, so we gave them this answer, we gave them this answer, we gave them this answer, and we gave them this answer. That means if they choose any other answer other than those 4 and it's typed any other way, basically nothing would happen. And in that case, we'll put an else statement so we know, like, hey, maybe they just didn't enter it right and it's still working properly. So we can say print, like, sorry, information was entered wrong. Okay, so that's just checking if the information was entered wrong. And we'll do here if, elif, else, with or operator. That way you can remember. And we'll go ahead and run this here to check it out. So you see here it says, what is your name? We'll say TJ. What is your age? We'll say 12. Are you a student or a worker? We'll say student. And then what grade are you in? We'll say 12. See, once we did that, it started our loop all over again. Now, it's going to continue to run basically until we're out of the range of 5. So we'll continue to go through here. So what is your name? We'll say Mike. What is your age? 45. Are you a worker? Yes. What is your current job? Let's say cashier. Then we start all over again. What is your name? Jim. What is your age? 67. Are you a student or a worker? This is where we're going to throw it off. I don't know. Then you see here, it says, sorry, information was entered wrong because it did not meet the requirements of the other 2. However, the program kept going because we are still in a loop and we asked it to run 5 times. So we'll do it again. Ashley, what's your age? We'll say 23. Are you a student or a worker? We'll use the capital student. It works. What grade are you in? We'll just say freshman. Oh, spelled that wrong. Then it keeps going, and it's going to keep going. So I'm just going to enter some random data for now. Again, I'll break this one, and then it stops because it ran the number of times it needed to run. So that is the cool thing about using your loops, is that it will keep doing it. Now, in this case, we knew how long we wanted it to run. That's why we told it for the range of 5. But there are cases where you don't know how many times you want it to run, and that's where your while loop comes into play. So to close this out, lastly, we'll do our while loop. So we'll come here, while loop, and I will get rid of this stuff. So our while loop. So we'll go ahead and do age equals, let's say 10. All right. So what we're going to do is use this variable age equals 10. So we'll say while age is, let's say, less than 21. Then you're going to do something with that age. So you can say print, and we'll say here current age, and we'll put age just to show you what goes on here. So this is a simple example of a while loop. This while loop is not going to run properly, just to let you know now, and I'm going to show you why, but we'll go ahead and run it. And when you run it, you see that it's constantly saying current age equals 10, current age equals 10, current age equals 10, and it keeps on going. So I'm going to stop it because it will go until you stop it. And basically, that's what you call an infinite loop. You are not breaking the loop. You are not telling it where to stop. So it continued to run because you never told it when to stop. And if we keep scrolling, look how long it's still going because I just let it run for that long. That's how long it ran. And that is what you call an infinite loop. And that is what you do not run. Now, keep in mind, it didn't seem that long when we were doing it, but as we ran it, that's how long. See, 5,000 lines. That's how long it ran. And that's not something you want. So you need to make sure that you use a while loop, you break the while loop. And how do we do that? We need to change the age. So there's two ways you can do it. You can say age is plus equal to 1, which will basically say age is going to equal age plus 1. Or you can just, if it's easier for you to visibly see it, say age equals age plus 1. Now, if you simply add that one line and run it again, it stops you and it pretty much does not give you that infinite line. Because you have to change whatever variable is here, you basically have to find a way to make that condition false. So the only way we could have done that is to add 1 to age, and then eventually it will basically make that loop false. And that's how it stopped. So in between that, right, you could simply put different things like if statements or things like that. In this case, we said while age is less than 21, and let's say we want to say if age is, equal to 21, that little difference will then add 21 to our output, right? So then what we can do here is we could say if age is equal to 21, then you can say print, you are a legal adult now. So we can do that. We can click run, and then you see it says 21. You are a legal adult now. Another cool thing we could do is if, we wanted to add another milestone. So in this case, we want to add an if statement, and we'll say if age is equal to 16, we could say print happy 16th birthday. And for this, I'll change this to an elif here. And then that way, it'll be another option. So you'll see how this works. And this will hopefully make sense. So here you see it says if age is equal to 16, print happy birthday, which it did. And then if age is equal to 21, you are a legal adult now. Now, I did this for purposes of explaining the if-elif statement. Now, remember prior I did say it will ignore anything else if something is true. So you guys may be thinking in here, okay, well, you said age is equal to 16 and it worked there, age is equal to 21. Remember, this is a loop. So when it is a loop, it will basically restart and recheck the conditions based on that current age. So when it printed out happy 16th birthday, age was 16. And when it printed out you are a legal adult, age was 21. So with the loop, your age is a different age each time. That's why it caused no problems. And that's why in the same program, both statements still printed out. So that is pretty much the cool things about your loops. And just to help you, bring this all together, we do have the functions, which is the last topic. And I know you're probably like, okay, this is a lot of information to take in, which I don't expect you all to get it through one watch. You may need to watch it in pieces or watch it multiple times to get it, but I figured doing it this way would be helpful to you all, so that you can stop and review and take it all in. So the last thing I want to cover is the function, and that's pretty simple. So we'll come here and add our last section of code, and we'll do functions. And so with our functions, we're basically going to collect some sort of information. So we'll say def, and that defines it. You give it a name, and we'll say personal info. And that is how you would create a function. So for here, we could say name equals input, enter name, and then that would hold it, right? Another thing you could do is do age. And feel free to copy this from the examples above that we did, but I'm just going to retype it out for y'all to get the idea. And then we'll say city, input, what city are you living in? So I'll just stop it there. So we're saying we're collecting this personal data or personal information. And what we can do in here is store it in a list. So we can do create list with info. And all you would have to do is say info or name your list. And I'll name it info, and we can say name, we can say age, and we can say city. And now the list will store users info. Then all we have to do is print info out to print all of the information out. So if we set this up, this is now a function. And if you hover here, you see it says function personal info. The parentheses where it says parentheses none is basically saying we are not taking in any input, and I'll show you what that means soon. So we're not taking in any input. And if you click run, then nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Because you never called the function. So this was us creating the function, but now you have to call the function. And again, take note that the functions have indents just like your while, your if statements, your loops. So make sure you keep that there. But to call your function, we need to get out of our indent block. So I'll hit enter twice or backspace. And then we'll say call function. And when you call the function, you would call whatever the name is. So ours was personal info, and you do need to put the parentheses. So now when we run it, you see it says enter name, TJ, enter age, 12. What city do you live in? Richmond. And then it printed out our information. Now, if there was a case that we wanted to enter in some information, then, for example, we could do job, right? So it's just going to assume that job is some sort of information. And here is what we would do for that. So now we're going to pass in some information, but we need to give it some information to pass in. So I'll come up here and we'll say J equals, if I could move this block. Okay, J equals, and then we'll say student. Now this part can be a little confusing, so just stay with me. So here we're saying, well, I won't be so specific. So here we'll just put J. And J is going to be a parameter basically saying it's expecting some input when we call this. So when we run this, you'll have an issue because basically it's saying you're missing an argument of J. So it's missing some sort of input that you're supposed to put into the function. And we didn't give it that. So it's basically saying in here, you should have something. And in this case, we technically have J named here. So I'll put job so we can use that here. And then we'll put job in. So then it knows that you are putting in some info, and we'll say print J, and we could say here their job is. So now when we run it, we put in our information, TJ, the age, 20, what city do you live in, Richmond, and then here it basically gives us our information, and then it says their job is student. Where is student coming from? It's coming from up here, which is outside of the function. So when we use J, it's basically saying you're going to input some information from another part of your code, and J matches here. So you see this is where we use our input. So it comes in here, and then you decide where inside of your function you're going to use it, which we used it right here. But we didn't actually insert the information until we called the function. So this is where we insert the information from up here, which was student. You could have also automatically put it here. Like, for example, you could have said cashier here instead of using the variable here. So when you run it, and I'll just go through quick, then you see that also worked as well. So yeah, that's pretty much Python in a nutshell. I mean, of course, for you to understand it and get it, you have to do it over and over again. And I'm not expecting that of you, but I just wanted to give everyone examples so that when you're going through or trying to complete the assignments, it makes sense, or you have an example to go by. Again, on the channel, there are in-depth coding tutorials on each topic that I've covered. So if this wasn't enough, I encourage you to check out the other videos I made, especially if you're looking to get into it more. Again, I also brought up your other tool of going to W3 Schools to help you keep up. So there's while loops as well, for loops. Here's even the functions. So if you need a slow down pace and a better explanation of what to do and how to do it, you can come here and use that as another source. So I'm sure your brain is probably hurting. I do apologize, but I just wanted to make sure that we don't drag out Python for more than 1 week, because I understand that you all don't necessarily care, or some of you don't care to actually do programming after this point, but I still wanted to expose you to how coding works and what it looks like. So hopefully you found some of this cool. If you didn't, I understand, but I still wanted to make sure you just have some awareness of what goes on behind your computers and behind your devices. So thank you for hanging in for this long video, but I hope you got some useful information out of it, and I will see you in our next lecture.